So Angel Camaleon Ayala beats Dave Apolinario by sixth round stoppage to claim the vacant IBF Flyweight title. This was a this fight went a little bit different to how I expected it to go. I picked Ayala to win the fight, and I picked him to win on points. Ayala has stock kind of dropped actually from the previous fight against Felix Alvarado, where he arguably lost. But the difference between Alvarado and Apolinario is that Alvarado is a pressure fighter. He's better at closing the distance. He's better. Well, he's not great at shortening up his punches, but he's better than Apolinario. He doesn't lunge in with his punches, and he doesn't rely on his explosiveness as much. So landing on Ayala and being able to get into his range against Ayala was not going to be as difficult for Alvarado as it was for Apolinario, who himself is a power puncher. But I expected Ayala to actually be on the back foot. But in this fight, it was actually Apolinario who was conceding the center of the ring. And it was Ayala who was coming forward in this fight. And in the first three or so rounds, it was Apolinario his work rate was lacking, but he was landing big power shots on Ayala. Because even though Ayala does have good foot speed, good hand speed, good counter punching, good punch variety overall, and is a good boxer, has a pretty high IQ in the ring, he lacks fluidity with his upper body. He doesn't really move his upper body. He doesn't use a lot of head movement, doesn't take his head off center line, and does expose his chin. And he was getting caught with some big shots in there. He was trying to initiate off of his jab, but Apolinario, who is the superior athlete and power puncher, was catching him on the way in. And in my view, you could have made an argument for him winning the first three rounds, but I personally gave him just rounds 1 and 3. Ayala, though, did have the superior work rate. And one thing about Apolinario and a lot of fighters like him who rely on their power punching to that degree is it really takes it out of you when you're constantly missing those punches. Because even though he was landing those punches early on, progressively, he started to tire because of how much he was committing to his shots. It was tiring his legs, and he was finding himself more and more out of range to be able to land those punches. And as a result, Ayala was just able to kind of claw away at him. He was getting a little bit more ambitious with his offense. He was leading his way in with the jab. He was applying pressure. He was tightening up his high guard. He was making himself a little bit less exposed. And Apolinario really had no answers. He was looking for one big shot at a time, and it ended up costing him, and Ayala's confidence just began to grow. Apolinario, whilst a relatively highly touted prospect in the division, does not have anywhere near the experience Ayala has. Ayala has fought against guys like Christian Gonzalez and Felix Alvarado. And even though he arguably lost against Alvarado, that type of experience and intensity over the course of 12 rounds is not something Apolinario has even come close to enduring in his career. And that pretty much made the difference in this fight. Rounds 4 and 5, Ayala had really kind of started to take over. Apolinario was landing here and there, but Ayala had a committed body attack, which eventually paid dividends, and in the 6th round, he dropped him early on with a left hook to the body. Apolinario actually came back and momentarily stunned Ayala, but Ayala went right back to work, made him shell up, was going on basically went on an onslaught, body and head, made Apolinario shell up. Apolinario wasn't even worried about counter-punching at that point. He wasn't in position to counter. He didn't even have his feet set. He was just taking punishment, looking to shell up and looking to survive. And eventually he got beat up against the ropes and he got stopped, dropped to his knees in the corner, and I would say probably quit. So Ayala is the new IBF champion. You could argue to an extent he was lucky to be in this position with his fight against Felix Alvarado, but he is a guy who, in my view, is one of the better up-and-coming young fighters in that division, and I've been following his career for a few years now. I did expect him to win this fight, and overall, when you look at his career and you look at the guys he's beaten, Christopher Rosales. He officially did defeat Felix Alvarado, and when you look at the troubles that Christian Gonzalez was able to give Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who's seen as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, the fact that this dude was able to beat him in his second professional fight, his record is going to be underappreciated by a lot of guys who aren't necessarily as familiar with the lower weights or have followed his career. But he's actually established a pretty impressive resume to this point. So in my view, yes, he was a bit lucky to get the decision in the Alvarado fight. I do think he is a worthy champion, and I do expect him to be trouble for the champions at 112 pounds. So if y'all saw the fight, let me know what you all think about Ayala's performance, and what do y'all think about him moving forward in the division. Have a good one.